Welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life and another great day to decide what you're going to be about the rest of your life. This is never too late. This is never too early. This is the perfect day for you to be reevaluating what's going to be going on in your life and to be taking a hold of all the beauty and the opportunities that are given to us, that are blessed to us. One of the great things that I get to do today is spend some time with my dear friend, Lacey Byrd, and you are going to fall in love with Lacey. Yes, she's a young pup, but she's got the wisdom of a centurion, okay? And so I just want to share her life and her love and her light with you. So to that end, Lacey, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Mary. I'm so excited to be here with you. You are just a bright light yourself, and I love that we get to have this conversation.
This time together really works, just sharing. I always feel like when I'm on my podcast that I never even think about really my listeners and that there's somebody else out there behind this camera and that, thousands of people are listening. I just think about how fortunate they are to just get to listen in on our private conversation.
I know, right? There's so much gold there.
Yeah, it's just an invitation to all of you to join and to learn from us today. All right, so Lacey Byrd, everyone wants to know a little bit about you. I mentioned about what a young pup you are. How old are you?
I am 32 years old. I'll be 33 this year in October.
There you go.
But yes, I do feel like I've lived 100 years.
Right? Even though that Lacey and I are 50 years difference in age, we share so much of the same heart. And that's why I really wanted to have you on the podcast, Lacey, that it doesn't really matter what age you are. It's never too late and it's never too early to step into this beauty of who you are.
Yeah.
All right. So I want people to take people back so they can learn a little bit about you and get to appreciate the distance you've come in 32 years. I first met with you and your husband because you started this great organization in Utah called Breakfast Palooza. And we're all these, it's kind of like this great network of business people, both men and women coming together with networking and talking and great conversation. And I was fortunate to attend one of yours, way up in Camas I drove just so that I could attend. It was so wonderful. But there's a whole piece of life of you that happened long before you stepped into life coaching and physical coaching and offering a platform of connection to people. You lived a lot of life.
I have.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, first of all, I grew up in Oregon, and beautiful area, by the way. But I didn't really draw like the long straw in life, and it's okay though. But I was dealt a pretty stacked deck of cards. By the time I was 3, actually, my life kind of took a different turn. My dad actually ended up killing my mom, and then he killed himself. And so I went into the foster system. I had, I don't even actually know off the top of my head how many siblings I have, but I have multiple half siblings from my mom's side and from my dad's side, but they've never really been a part of my life. So they all went and lived with their other parent when that happened. My sister and I have one biological sister, full blood, and her and I went into the foster system. So 4 years old, I was in the foster system and just already had so much confusion, so much, there was just, those are your developmental years, and it really does make a massive impact on your overall, you're literally, your brain and your nervous system are forming during that time. And you're creating your underlying belief systems about your environment and how you fit into that environment. And I will tell you, going back, I just felt so uncertain about everything. I developed just this massive anxiety towards life. I was afraid of everything. I had no, I don't ever really remember having that, joy of a little kid just being so free and, and so I got adopted at about 4.5, and still in Oregon, and lived there. So my sister and I kind of grew up there for a while. And over the next 6 years or so, life was pretty good, as far as I remember. Like nothing huge happened. But I already had such a broken foundation, right? And there was just so much uncertainty. And we were just handling things so differently. And I don't really believe that I had the resources that I needed to even fully develop and process all of it, right? And so at 10, my adopted family, they adopted 3 more girls. And that's when it really just started taking like a downward spiral pretty fast. They had all come from a different situation. They're like my sister and I, my biological sister, we didn't have any parents or family to really go back to. So it's kind of like, all right, this is your new normal. The other 3 girls, they had been taken away from their moms. So they were, from day one, they were just trying to go back to their mom, and they were just creating so much chaos in the home. And they were a little bit older. And so it just started really bringing out the worst in everyone. And now there's 5 kids with so much trauma, and first time parents that are just trying to like navigate this. And it really brought out the worst in everyone. And it started turning really violent and just it was like a war zone. There were like cops were coming up to our house constantly. We couldn't have any sharp objects in the house. Literally my life was threatened multiple times. And I remember so much of, the next few years. So from 10 to about 13, it was like chaos, like pure chaos. And I just remember so many times like hiding in my closet and just feeling like I just wanted to escape and I couldn't. And so early on, my coping mechanism became dissociation. And I would just try to like shut off. Well, I didn't try, like I would just kind of shut off the outside world and like go inward. And, during that time, I was a really good athlete, very good at school, very far ahead in school, always been an artist. And those were kind of my outlets, as well as reading. Like I was such a bookworm, and I would just read or be outside with the animals. And so that was like my outlet. I wasn't really close to my siblings during that time. So kind of growing up in that, they were acting out a lot because they didn't really know how to process what they were going through. And their outlet was just a little more outward. And so they quickly started really disliking me because I was good at school and good at sports. And I was like just trying to get out of my situation through a different means. And I learned pretty quickly that that wasn't working for any of them. So at 13, I remember going into my school and, I was getting excited. So I'm at the end of my 8th grade year, and like, I don't remember exactly the date, but it was probably within the last few weeks of school of my 8th grade year, getting ready to go into high school. I had already been recruited for varsity sports in high school, and I was just really excited for that next stage and season. And I walked into school, and I was pulled into the principal's office, like right after getting to school, and there were several DHS agents there. And, they just started asking us a bunch of questions. And basically they said, you're not going home today, and you're not allowed to reach out to your parents. You're not allowed to reach out to anybody in your life. You're not allowed to try and get any of your things. They gave us a voucher for Target. I hate Target. They gave us a voucher and we're like, here, go buy the essentials. Go get some new things. They gave us a garbage bag full of like donated items. And I remember, my first night, I stayed in multiple temporary foster homes over the next 3 years, just going through that process. Because we were taken away. It was like an emergency, like taken out of the home. And then you get put into a foster home, but it's like a temporary foster home. So it's usually just for the night or for the weekend. And then they find one that's like a month or so. And so I lived in so many different temporary foster homes, and it was a horrible experience. I mean, you think about like a 13-year-old girl in general, like trying to navigate life with all the baggage, but now you're like that first night I was literally staying in someone's shed in their backyard. And I felt so unsafe. I felt so insecure. I felt so scared of just like everything. And there's just so much going on. And, it was in that at 14, throughout that process, I was living in all these different foster homes that I really started, like, I felt the switch flip when I stopped caring. And I was just like, you know what? I've tried to do all the things. Like, I tried to do everything right and like keep everything together. Keep everything together. But it's still like I still have no control over my situation. And so I just remember I stopped caring and just started hanging out with the wrong crew as a freshman in high school. And I was going to a different high school at that point, and I was still living in a foster home. And I just started living this double life. And this double life looked like I was on varsity sports. I was this great athlete in the front. I was this great student, straight A's, like super far ahead. And I learned to perform at a really high level. But every night I had started dating this older guy. I mean, he was almost 20 and I was 14. And yeah, that's a red flag. But but I had started dating this older guy, and literally I was sneaking out every single night and just getting into trouble. I started drinking at 14. Thank goodness I didn't get into any like harder drugs or anything like that. But I just remember this dichotomy of this double life that I was living, and I was just burning myself out at such a young age, just trying to feel accepted, trying to find somewhere that I belonged, trying to like do all the right things, and just not really having good mentorship, not really having a place where I felt like it was home, like it was comfortable, like I could just like let all the baggage down, and be safe and be loved. And I didn't know it at that time that that's what I was needing or seeking, but I was just seeking for it in all the wrong places. And fast forward, that developed into my adult life, and I just struggled with relationships. I struggled with just like my own identity. And so at 16, I ended up graduating high school and I started college early and moved out on my own. And for the first time, I had that autonomy that I wanted so badly my whole life, that like nobody's ever going to tell me what I can or can't do again. Like now I have control of my life. But with that came
I am the master. Yeah.
yeah, but I had so many walls, and there was not a single person in my life that was inside of those walls, you know? And yeah, so it was just, I carried around so much pain and so many walls for so long, and it just caught up with me in my young adult life at about 21.
Hmm. Well, I think I used to say that exact same thing when I was your age. I think I've lived 100 years of life in this little bit of wedge of years. But my life, Lacey, didn't even compare to the things that you experienced at such deep personal levels from such a young age. And from the child abuse, to being put in a foster care system, to then enduring, an additional people inserted into the family where you had just begun to feel some safety. And then I think one of the key pieces that you talked about is that if I had just known or understood what I was looking for,
Yeah.
and I kept trying to get all these pseudo ways to fill my bucket, but they weren't filling my bucket. So the behavior over here just kept getting worse and worse, grabbing for more and more to fill the bucket. How did you come, and what brought you to the point of this isn't working?
Yeah.
And so what's next?
Well, I got married really young, actually, I was 18 when I got married, and I actually ended up marrying my best friend's brother. And her family had kind of taken me in a little bit during that time. She was a friend during, my high school years, and so it was just kind of a natural progression, maybe not supernatural, but that it was just my brain was kind of like, okay, well, this is the next step then. Her brother had taken a liking to me. So what had happened so many times in my life and I didn't know this, I didn't have the language for this at all during that time. But looking back, I can kind of narrate it, is that I went where I felt wanted. So if it didn't matter who they were, I didn't have a standard, I didn't have any kind of belief system about what I wanted or what I felt I deserved. And so a lot of times I found myself surrounded by people that would abuse me, that would just not really care about me. So because I didn't have that like belief system within myself, and I didn't even see my own value, because going back, my early, like my deepest wound and my deep core wound is abandonment and feeling of worthlessness and feeling like I don't matter. And so that played out so many times throughout my life, kind of growing up. It would affect the people that I hung around, the places that I went. And so I would find myself just gravitating towards really anyone that would give me attention, or like I felt a sense of want. Like if someone was looking at me or treating me as if I was a burden, I would pick up on that really quickly, and I would just kind of disconnect from that. And so that actually, I'll bring that up later, but that plays a huge part into how I believe in change and helping others and being there for others, is, not looking down at them or trying to help them or fix them, but to lift them up. And so all that to say, I got married really early. It literally did not last long at all. And then I found myself at like 20 years old, divorced, completely just lost in where to go and what to do and who to be in life. And I had finished school, and now I was working. So I started out as a welder and had, risen the ladder to a corporate office job at an aftermarket auto parts store. And I was kind of just in that season, just, nothing, like I wasn't really going after anything, didn't really have any ambitions. Like I was just trying to not rock the boat and to just survive, really, that survival state of mind. And that was actually when I met Nate, my now husband. I was at the gym, and he was at the gym, and this was in Vancouver, Washington. And he had started to pursue me, and I was just not interested at all. Like I was like, he went down that road, not going down that road again. Like I'm not going to be controlled by somebody. I'm not going to deal with that,
Talk to me when I'm 40. Until then, leave me alone.
Right. And it was just so recent, and I was just not interested at all. And he just kept coming, and he just wanted to build this friendship. And I was like, okay, fine. So I let the wall down just a little bit, and we started working out together. And then we just started going and hiking. If you've been to Oregon, Washington, the gorge is incredible.
Beautiful.
Spent so much time out there hiking. That's like my oasis. I love being out on the hiking trails. And, it just progressed so quickly. It went from me being like, no, 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 to we just built such a deep friendship over the next year. And, he was so different. Like, I was like, this guy's so different. Like, he's not doing, and like I had learned to test people, right? To see their true nature, because I expected a certain reaction out of people. And he just kept responding differently, and I couldn't make sense of it. And I just started trusting him. Anyways, so we actually got married in Alaska. We went up to Alaska, got married on Christmas Eve. And we just, it was like, wow, like everything's good. We have this great relationship. And then we went from Alaska, and we were like, let's go move to Southern California and become personal trainers to the celebrities. And so we did. We packed up our Pontiac Vibe with 2 suitcases each, and we drove from Alaska to Southern California, and we started building. And I will tell you, we ran through our savings so fast. Life got very stressful very fast. We were in our first year of marriage, and just, as I'm sure you've probably witnessed and seen, like that before the marriage and after the marriage is kind of different. Like it's a whole new journey.
It's a wake-up call.
Now we're like building to oneness. Like now that we've made this commitment, we're building to oneness. Well, we weren't. We were just reacting off of each other. Life got stressful and it went downhill quickly. And so we found ourselves it was before our second year of marriage. We were separated, living in Southern California. I ended up having an affair, but at that point, just to give you context of where I was at in life, I didn't even care. Like, I was so hardened that I didn't try to hide it, and I just didn't care. Like, I was expecting him to just leave, like everyone else left, and I had felt emotionally abandoned because he was trying to deal with all these financial stressors, and I needed like emotional connection, you know? And so it just unraveled so fast. And we were separated for a year and 2 months. And during that time, there was not a single day that I was by myself because everything over the past, I was about 22. So everything over the past 22 years, I had never actually looked back at any of it. And I was just running so hard away from it. So even at that
Yes.
point, Nate didn't know a lot of what I had experienced in life because I was just keeping it down, keeping it hidden, keeping it buried, and just running away from it. And what happened was I hit my personal rock bottom after a year and 2 months of, excessive drinking, partying, being out constantly, like, stimulus, being distracted, all these things, right? Trying to fill that void because what happened was if there was even a moment that I was like really by myself and in that silence and stillness, I started because I didn't have any emotional intelligence at that point. Like I couldn't describe my emotions or what I was feeling. I couldn't express myself. I couldn't really put language to any of it. And so I started having a panic attack. Every time I would start to have all these things come up, it would come out as this panic attack. I would start hyperventilating and I just couldn't. So I would numb it and keep myself in that box of numbness and stoicism and just like nothing really above or below that. And it really came to a head and I really came to the end of myself. That's the best way I can say it is like I just came to the end of myself and I was like, I can't do this. I was just like, I was living this double life again, that never really stopped. But on the front side, I was building this incredible business. I was training really high profile clients. I was in Southern California being invited to all these mansion parties and yacht parties and, around all these people. And on the backside though, my hair was falling out. Like no one really knew me or what I was going through. I didn't have real deep connections. I was still just performing and then living in isolation and pain and turmoil. And so really it all came to a head about 10 years ago, actually, almost 10 years ago. And through that process, that's a longer story, but through that process, like I remember somebody said, it's always just going to be the same crap, different toilet with you. And I know, I know that sounds kind of out there, but like for some
No, I
reason,
get it. It's a great visual.
yeah, for some reason that phrase like really just struck me in that moment because I realized up until that point in my life, I almost had this like 2-year window with the life I was living. And then like relationships would get deeper and they would get to a point of discomfort and vulnerability, which I didn't know how to do. And so I would just kind of like upend all of it and move on to the next. And then I would have these same types of relationships in my life, the same roles, but different faces. And for some reason, those words, like it's not very profound or anything, but those words just really impacted me. And it made me look in the mirror and be like, you know what? I'm not going to live a subpar life because of the hand that I was dealt. I'm not going to live a subpar life because of someone else's decisions. And so I started, Nate and I got back together shortly later, and we didn't just get back together. We were like, you know what? We're going to build an epic, thriving marriage. And so we started going to marriage retreats. We started getting coaches and mentors and learning these tools of how do you even have a healthy relationship? Because to be honest, like neither of us really had those tools, right? Like we would just we didn't know how to really communicate. We didn't know really how to resolve conflict or talk about our own feelings, let alone hold space for the other one. And it was all fun and games, in that first
Yeah.
2 years when it's just like kind of, fun getting to know somebody. But really when life gets tough, that's when those real relationships matter, right? And the depth of them. And so we started building, and then through that, I came across just a lot of shame and trauma work and understanding and being able to put language to. So I've done a lot of art therapy and just understanding and being able to, number one, put those memories back in, because I didn't have a lot of those memories at this point of my childhood, of growing up, of all these things, let alone the language to put towards how I experienced it and how it made me feel. So I definitely couldn't convey that to someone else, right? Because I couldn't even process it myself. And so the past 10 years for me has just been this journey of pulling back the layers of the onion and really just deeply understanding myself and why I do what I do, and understanding and being able to seek to understand myself, my husband, those around me. And, through that journey, it's built this incredible compassion and empathy within me for others, especially those who didn't really grow up with the tools, because I've invested so much time, energy, money, effort over the last 10 years to be able to get the resources that I have. And I just know that if I would have had those when I was younger, or if there were people that were actually showing up for me in the right way, how much that would have transformed my experience.
You know, you've said so many powerful things, Lacey, that I just want to have a deeper discussion on, but I'm going to pick one of them. Okay. I'm going to pick the one where you said, which is for me was very impactful, when you said, I would go anywhere with anyone and do anything that I thought wanted me.
Mm.
And sometimes it's hard to put words to those feelings when people are feeling them, feeling abandoned, not belonging, unlovable, not worthy, never enough.
Right.
And in my walks of life, I easily have met over 500,000 people in my time. I've not met one of them that hasn't experienced those feelings to some degree or another. So it says to me that they're probably a part of this existence. There's no way to completely ignore them and get out of this life free of them. It was meant to be that we all experience those things. You experienced them to a greater depth than most.
Yeah.
And when you talked about having this affair, you said, it didn't really matter to me. I thought about your other statement about I would go anywhere. So here pops up a guy that said he wants you. He wants you to take care of you. Here's a belong and you have this and take care of you, nurture you, great sex, all these things, take you out, blah, blah. The other relationships, not that it wasn't important to you. Right now you were responding to the immediate person that was in front of you, showing you where you can belong.
Yeah.
And it's less of a betrayal to your husband than it truly was in the end, a betrayal to yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't know, again, I didn't have any of this language. I was literally just reacting to my environment, reacting to everything in life. And I think one of the most powerful things that I think anyone can do, it's so funny because I don't know if you know this, but I'm working on my doctorate in behavioral psychology now, and I'm
that's
obsessed.
awesome.
I'm obsessed with neuroplasticity, neuroscience, behavior change, understanding how do you really create, because research shows that up to 97% of our daily actions as adults, we're operating on autopilot, and up to 90% of that was created before we were even 7. And so we're literally living out, most of us are living out decades, even a lifetime of these behaviors and cycles and habits and thought patterns and belief systems that don't actually align with what we want or what we believe, right? But we're living them out just because that's what was programmed, essentially. During our developmental years, we're taking in all this data through our five senses, and that's where we're creating that belief system. So for me, that belief system was that you're unwanted, you're a burden, you don't belong anywhere, no one loves you, like you're a waste of space, basically. So kind of moving forward, and you have a little insight as to like what we're building now, and it's like, that was so hard for me. That was so hard for me to really show up in a relationship or in life or in my own power. Like when I deeply, deeply, deeply believed that I was unwanted, unloved, didn't belong, right? And so I've had to completely rewire that and rewire and create new data and new information and new like neural pathways that are saying, no, your voice matters. And that's actually where that lighthouse painting comes in, it's something I've been going through even just the last few years of, I felt like for so long if you can visualize, I'm an artist, so I visualize a lot of things, but for me, it was almost like I was this lamp with a lampshade on that was in a room that had this lampshade on it to dim its light to be more palpable to the environments that it was in. So I was constantly living my life to be a people pleaser and make sure everyone else, like micromanaging everyone else to make sure that my environment was controlled, that I never really even knew who Lacey was. I never really deeply understood what I wanted, what my belief systems are, like what I actually want out of my life and the impact that I can make, and let alone my voice, right? And why would anybody want to hear from me, like, and so for me, I went from this feeling of almost just like I had this lampshade on and I was in this dark room that was just like trying to constantly be more palpable to the environments I was in, to really having this shift to being more of a lighthouse. And lighthouses, if you think about it, they are not only not affected by the storm, but they're designed to withstand the storms that they're in and these like crashing waves and everything in the darkness, because they stand there, right? Why is the lighthouse there? Well, they're there to cast out their light so that those ships that are lost at sea can know where to go to safe harbor. And I had such a shift within myself of this light that I have. And instead of trying to dim it and be more accepted by everyone, that, to be honest, like, you're never going to please everyone, right? Yeah. And you'll make yourself go crazy trying to. And shifting from that to actually really getting to know Lacey and build this strong foundation that could withstand these storms, but not only withstand them, they could stand in the storm, not hide from the storm. They could stand in the storm and be there for others so that others know that I am a place of refuge, that they can come to me. There's nothing that they can say that'll make me look at them in any different way, look down on them, and I will be there. And not only will I be there, but I can walk through that storm and out of it with them without it tearing me down. And that has taken a long time to get to that point. But I, like you said earlier, like you believe it so deeply in your bones that we all need this oneness. Like I do too. Like I can't tell you, people always ask me, like I've done so many podcasts and interviews like this, and they're like, well, what, like you're so strong. Like, how did you get through all this? And I will tell you, I might not even be alive right now, let alone living the life I am, if it was not for my husband. He loved me unconditionally when I had never experienced that in my life. I was acting like a Tasmanian devil. I was just creating chaos in my life, looking and wanting so badly. Like you look at like this rabid dog or this dog at like an animal shelter and it's just like growling and barking, but like all they really want is to be loved, right? And it's like, that's how I was acting. But deep down, all I really wanted was to be loved through it and to like have somebody that I could really trust in. And that was him for me. He went through a lot and really, really was there for me through that time and wasn't looking down at me, wasn't trying to fix me or change me, but really met me where I was at in that rock bottom and walked through it with me. And that, more than any personal development, more than anything I've learned or any tools, like that is the change. And now I will live my life till my last breath being that for anybody that I can, being that one person that responds differently when they're pushing your buttons, right? They're expecting you to leave and they're pushing all these buttons, but you don't because you see what they actually need and want through it. And you're not trying to change them, you're not trying to fix them, but you can be there for them, but also inspire them that there's more on the other side of that. And that's how I live my life today, is just that place of, I don't love sharing my story, I'll be honest, but every time I do, there's always one person who's like, thank you so much for putting language to what I was feeling, you know? And so I'll continue. Like, I'll definitely have those people that are like, that's a lot. Why are you sharing that? Right? Like you're a little too open. TMI, you know? But at the end of the day, it's like that's what we need. We need connection. We need real connection, not comparison, not like posturing, pretending like we're all perfect and have it together, because really none of us do. And at the end of the day, something that you said about your trip, like, we're all so similar, right?
Yeah.
Different environments, like, call it different things, but like we all have those same needs and desires. And that number one need and desire is to be seen, heard, and valued. And to be that person, and to be that person for others is, I mean, that's the real glow up.
When I've had that similar experience, Lacey, where people, after I've done some sort of talk, depending if it's the right audience, and you'll know how, you know what I mean when I say that. Some people, just going to go like this, so let's go ahead and talk at this level. Other people are like intent, and you're going to hit them right here. Yeah. But sometimes they've had those opportunities where people have said, all right, that's a lot. You really, it makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And my response usually is, what is the fear if you listen? What are you afraid of if I tell my story? Mm-hmm. I just want people to think about that for a minute. Well, I'm afraid that it might get other people to think they want to do that. Mm-hmm. Really? Does my story sound like something you want to experience? No. Well, I'm actually afraid that it's going to make it normal for people to do this. If this happens to Mary Crafts, it could happen to anybody. So I don't want it to be normal. Okay. We'll talk about that for a minute. What is the other fear? And eventually, Lacey, we get down to, I'm afraid that I will have to look at myself.
Yep.
That's always the bottom line. We will go to the craziest degrees to protect ourselves from having to look. And yet, as you and I both know, that is the exact thing that allows us to heal.
Yeah, and to heal and to feel. It's like, kind of going back to, remember what I was saying about, like, I visualize this, almost like that lifeline, like on the heart rate monitor, of, if you think of like a really high peak is just that like belly laughing, just fully present in the moment. And then that low is just like actual despair, right? But if you really look around, most people, their emotional intelligence is happy, sad, angry, and hungry, right? Like it's so limited in the language, because so then, and you know what? Anger is a secondary emotion. It's not even a primary emotion. Yeah. So it's like anger comes because you're feeling some pain, or you're feeling hurt, or whatever it is, right? And so for me, I had like my emotional window was so limited, and anytime I would start to go above it or below it, I would try to numb myself back into it. And most people are trying to live their lives numb, in this tiny little comfort zone, in this complacency, in this like never really rock the boat, and the reality is like life is being able to experience both, and to bounce back, and to move through it. And I will tell you, that's been the most freeing thing I've really done, is to be able to get those tools for myself, to be able to like not be afraid to cry, not be afraid to have those emotions and let them out. And because it's also allowed me on the flip side to be able to like just be so present and so free in the moment on a positive note, and it's like you have to be able to experience all of it in life, and to not let it define you, and to not try to run away from it or numb it or hide it. And I think our culture especially, and I'm sure a lot of cultures, well, many cultures are actually way worse, right? But specifically in the culture that we live in, because that's what is like right in front of me that I look at, is you're right. It's this comparison culture. We have social media. Everything's moving so fast. People's worlds are like opened up massively. Like think about 100 years ago, people's radius of their life was tiny, right?
Yeah.
So they're actually building these deep relationships with people because it's like small. And now you have, right, people are connected with the world essentially, and they're comparing to someone else's highlight reel. And so people are conditioned to just show the best parts of themselves and think that that is
Oh, yeah.
life and that is thriving. When in reality, like true connection comes when we're experiencing the hard points together as well as those high points, not just coasting here. Like you'll never impact anyone trying to please everyone and trying to just be like palpable, you know?
And what a boring life.
Right.
Boring yet ultimately completely stressful, because
Yes.
you're trying to stay in this box that society, your parents, the community, your siblings, your teachers, whoever they are trying to, because they're afraid of what would happen if they let you sing free.
Yep.
So they want to keep you here. So many parents see that as a protective thing for their children, to keep them
Yeah.
in the box. Someone's going to protect them because they're afraid that they don't know how to seek love healthily.
Yes.
And that's the skill set that we want to teach.
Yeah.
Want to teach our children. I teach my grandchildren. You teach
Yeah.
all the community that you interact with. Briefly before we end, I have two things. I have a favor.
Yeah.
We're out of time, but I want you to do two things. One, I want you to show your lighthouse picture. And
Okay.
let's see if we can get a little glimpse of that. Lacey is an incredible artist and paints in a lot of mediums. Oh my gosh, girl. That is the most beautiful ocean picture of just what's coming around us. We don't know whether to be fearful of it or to embrace it, but one way or the other, we need a light through it.
Yes.
And that's what you are.
Yeah.
The way you were
I-
able to catch the light in that lighthouse.
So I actually used gold. So I used gold under, and I mixed it with the paint and did gold undertones so that the actual light would reflect off of the light.
Yeah.
Because, anyways, artist hack.
Yeah. I'm hoping that you're in some showings that people can come and see this kind of incredible thing. Also, at the end of this podcast, we're going to include Lacey's link to her personal social, to her company, how you can track her and find her and learn more about her, where to buy her paintings. So, Lacey, you have to send me that email with all those links so I
Yeah,
can
I
put them all at the back of your podcast.
I will.
The one last thing.
Place to get to everything is just my Instagram, Lacey Mystery Bird, and all my links are connected on there.
Great. Lacey Mystery Bird. I love that. Now, one last thing. We've talked about a lot of stuff, a lot of trauma, a lot of darkness. But at this point, I mean, you've finished high school, you've gone through college, your master's program, you're in the middle of your doctorate on living life the way you want it lived, that you want to lift others to insight into this. And one of the things you do to create that is that you and your magnificent husband, together, you have created this company. How can people connect with you on that level?
So we create, we have two different communities and brands that we have. We have the Breakfast Palooza, which the Breakfast Palooza is a fun, engaging, it's more focused around personal, professional, relational growth for entrepreneurs, where our goal there is to bring the community of entrepreneurs together. And again, in a culture, in a world where everyone is comparing to each other, they're really, a lot of people are just living isolated. They're performing on the outside, pretending like they have it all together, but they're isolated on the inside. And in entrepreneurship, that is so hard. because you're already like going a completely different path and going against the grain, right? And you're dealing with so much with that. But then to do that all alone, when your goal is ultimately to create value for the world. So that's what Breakfast Palooza is it is a celebration of entrepreneurship. We have philanthropists, we have investors, we have entrepreneurs, innovators that come together and they're out there creating value for the world. And this is just their fuel up. So we have amazing food, we have performers, we have musicians, we had a magician at our last one. We have just this fun, exciting day of connection and collaboration. And then our other one is more focused on business and education, and that's called Acquisition IQ. So we have a nationwide network of individuals that are buying companies, selling companies, and then the service providers that help make it all happen. So the M&A service providers. And we're actually in the middle of a 15-city tour right now. We have literally just hit our halfway point. So we have Dallas tonight, and then 15 cities, 15 events over 6 weeks. So we're building that out, and we have a conference that we do all surrounding teaching people how to buy and sell businesses. And because if you don't know, we're going into the largest wealth transfer in history right now, and most business owners have no idea where to start when it comes to their succession plan or exiting their company. And so many entrepreneurs, especially millennials, they want to understand, how do I buy a business so I don't have to bootstrap and start from zero? So that's what we're doing. It's a lot of fun. We are community builders, marketers, and educators. And so that's what we're doing.
I love this acquisition AI thing. Being a baby boomer, born in 53, had my company for 35 years. And then it came time to transition. Even though I was selling it to my children, I was smart enough to get help.
Yep.
I didn't want to ruin the family. I wanted to be fair to both sides. I didn't know how to navigate the contract. So I spent the money and we hired a professional. And I love that you're doing workshops on this, that people can come and learn right from a workshop, even not having to hire their own private, you know, transition person. That's brilliant, because everyone in the baby boomer generation is going to pass on something. So
they're going to exit it one way or
right.
another, right? And why spend your whole life and so much of your time and energy building something that's just going to fizzle out or die off? Or like, why put so much into something that you don't hand off to somebody else who can do even more with it, right? And to really pass it off. And, you know, at the end of the day, our goal is to collapse time and increase quality of life for people that are out there making the world a better place. And so that's what we do. We bring the right people together, collapse time for them to be able to move the needle forward, and then just really go after bigger and better levels, you know, and be that space for them.
Well, thank you for your time today, Lacey, and your light. And you are just such a radiant woman. Most people would never guess what you've gone through. You know that.
Well, that's the goal. I don't want people to look at me and be like, oh,
she's broken. She is so broken. That's right. They want to look at you and they respond without knowing any of your background, just to know, wow, she's amazing. And that's how I think of you. I don't think about your background. I think about you. Wow, she's amazing. So thank you for being on my podcast today. And to all of you listeners, I invite you to follow her social media just for true inspiration. She is inspiring. She is knowledgeable. She's experienced. But the one thing I've learned to appreciate most about Lacey is that she's vulnerable. She's willing to lay it out there. Not just the stuff that's in her past, but the stuff that she's working through right now. And that is a gift to all of us. Thanks for being with us, Lacey. And until next time, remember that I see the divine in you. Namaste.
Crafting a meaningful life.